Chapter 12 The Awakening. The two finally went to sleep, and during the night in Putin's room he was awakened by a loud sound coming from his closet. Putin quickly stood up as his closet doors opened and stood what looked like the husband of the woman who was selling clothes. The apparition in Putin's closet bore an uncanny resemblance to the man depicted in the painting. From the waist up, his features mirrored those frozen in the portrait hanging in the woman's home. His countenance wore the same expression, his eyes holding a haunting familiarity. However, a chilling twist manifested below the waist. Instead of legs, a mass of sinuous tendrils writhed, resembling the fabric of a hand puppet manipulated by an unseen force. The transition from human to ethereal puppetry was jarring, casting an otherworldly pallor over the figure's appearance.
"Go to sleep, it's just a dream,"
yelled the puppet man. Putin reached for his sword while not taking his eyes off the puppet in his closet.
Why the hell am I here? I need to get the hell out of here,
thought Putin. The image turned all white and thrusted towards him, missing him by about a foot, destroying a table in the room. Putin takes a heavy swing towards the tentacle, cleaving it in half. The part that is not connected falling to the floor, making a loud sound as the tentacle retreated down the hole in the closet. Tristan rushed into the room upon hearing the loud sounds, his eyes widening at the sight of the large mound of white flesh on the ground and the broken table.
"What happened?"
Tristan exclaimed, his voice tinged with concern and confusion.
"Something came out of my closet,"
replied Putin. Tristan ran to the closet and saw a hole that was freshly dug before he could jump down the hole. From the door, Tristan heard a whooshing sound followed by laughter.
"Brother, you need to come back to visit,"
Ager said as Rigard and he walked through a portal from the throne room. As they entered the room, Rigard's expression was a mixture of surprise and bewilderment.
"What is going on?"
he asked, his voice filled with curiosity. Tristan began to recount the string of peculiar events, the absence of a blacksmith, the vacant gemologist's shop, and the odd encounters with the old lady. He detailed the disappearances and the unsettling discovery of the note that read, "People are being forgotten." As he spoke, Rigard's brow furrowed in concern, while Ager listened intently, his expression grave, showing the seriousness of the situation.
"So, who is this guy?"
asked Rigard, gesturing towards Putin. Tristan quickly explained their encounter and how he had found the red crystal. Putin then showed them his ring, drawing their attention to the similarities between their respective artifacts.
"Let me try something. Eldire taught me to dispel magic by using Stormweaver."
Rigard said he pulled out Stormweaver and put it to Putin's skin and began to focus his anti-magic on him. Putin remembered the old man as he began to write the note about monsters and people being forgotten. As Rigard applied Stormweaver to Putin's skin, a surge of memories flooded Putin's mind. He remembered the old man vividly, the urgency in his eyes as he frantically wrote the note about monsters and people being forgotten. The image of the man's face, etched with fear and desperation, became clearer with each passing moment, as if the dispelling magic was unlocking a hidden memory. Putin's hand trembled slightly as he recalled the encounter, the urgency of the situation weighing heavily on him once more. At the same time, he heard a faint song being sung from every direction. All four men approached the closet cautiously, their eyes fixed on the spot where the hole had been. To their surprise, the hole seemed to have vanished, replaced by solid ground as if it had never existed. Frustration clear on his face, Putin delivered a powerful punch to where the hole had been, but his fist met only solid floor, leaving him perplexed and irritated.
"Tomorrow, let's go see the mayor and tell him what we have found,"
said Tristan.
"Something wasn't right about him either."
"So where am I staying?"
Rigard said.
"I think we should all just stay in the same room after tonight,"
Putin said. Everyone quickly agrees and rests for the night.
"We can talk more about our plan in the morning."
Everyone woke up and the rest of the night was uneventful. They went down and ate breakfast. Tristan asked Rigard to help him with his sword play some, leaving Ager and Putin together.
"What is the deal about your brother?"
asked Putin.
"We come from a medium-sized city. Our father was the emir of Kuski by the emperor. He is the youngest child, and even at the age of 3, he was beating our eldest brother in sword-stick fighting. He beat up our brother so badly one day while sparring, which he got in trouble for not showing restraint. He left the family at the age of 13. I recently learned he joined a pirate crew right after he left our house. Then after that, He went and practiced his sword skill for all of his youth.
As Ager regaled Putin with exaggerated tales of his brother's heroics, his enthusiasm painted a vivid picture of the daring rescue. Putin listened intently, marveling at the seemingly superhuman feats described by Ager. Outside the inn, the contrast in their physical prowess was starkly obvious as Rigard assisted Tristan with swordsmanship drills. Ager's agility and finesse were clear in every movement, highlighting the vast difference in skill levels between the two brothers.
Let's go see the mayor and get to the bottom of this.
Ager suggested, his determination to unravel the city's mysteries obvious in his voice. The group went towards the mayor's place, and when they arrived, the guard declared,
"The mayor is busy, he cannot be bothered right now."
Tristan stepped forward, trying to move the guard out of the way, but his efforts proved futile. With a determined glance back at Putin, he made a swift decision. Stepping up, Putin grabbed the guard and with a sudden burst of strength, hurled him against the wall of the house, making him unconscious. The group walked into the mayor's house and the door to the office was locked. Putin stepped up and put all his strength in opening the door, and the doors flew off the hinges and opening a way towards the mayor's office. The mayor was not by his desk, and the group noticed he didn't have any legs and looked like a puppet.
You shouldn't be here.
As the tentacle flew towards Rigard, he deftly sidestepped to the left, evading its grasp. Quick as lightning, Putin drew his sword and struck, slicing through a part of the tentacle. Following suit, Rigard swung his weapon, severing another piece of the tentacle with precision. Tristan rears back and throws a death touch, hitting the tentacle directly. Tristan leaped into the hole without hesitation, disappearing into the darkness below. Rigard swiftly followed suit, determined not to let his friend face danger alone. With a resolute nod, Putin descended into the depths after them, prepared for whatever awaited them below. Ager peered down into the gaping hole, a sense of unease creeping over him.
What the hell am I doing? I'm not a fighter. I skipped battle class.
He muttered to himself, torn between his instinct to protect and his awareness of his own limitations. Ager waited 30 seconds, let out a great big sigh, and finally jumped down the hole. When Ager came out of the slide, he saw Tristan, Rigard, and Putin standing looking around a 20-foot in diameter dome-shaped room with dozens of tunnels all throughout the top of the dome. Ager brushed off his clothes with an annoyed expression, his frustration clear. Glancing around at the dimly lit tunnels, he spoke up.
I think these tunnels lead to various places within the city,
he remarked, his tone tinged with uncertainty. The tunnel stretched ahead, its walls rough and uneven, bearing the marks of excavation by something not of human hands. Jagged protrusions jutted out haphazardly, casting eerie shadows in the dim light. The ceiling loomed high above, the occasional drip of water echoing ominously in the cavernous space. The air felt heavy with the scent of earth and dampness, adding to the unsettling atmosphere.
It looks like the only way forward is down that hallway,
says Rigard.
I think it would be best if Putin takes the lead since he is the strong one,
said Ager.
You are probably right about that,
says Putin. Ager muttered to himself as he trailed behind the others.
Don't know why I'm following you.
His steps hesitant and reluctant. Despite his uncertainty, he kept a wary eye on the tunnel ahead, his senses alert for any signs of danger. With each step, the darkness seemed to press in around him, amplifying his unease. Yet, driven by a mix of curiosity and duty, he pressed on, determined to uncover the mysteries lurking within the depths of the tunnel. As he was walking, he casts a shield spell. In the center of the expansive room loomed a grotesque sight, a massive mass of white flesh, its surface pulsating with a sickening rhythm. Towering at a staggering 30 feet tall and spanning 40 feet wide, the fleshy mound dominated the chamber, casting a pall of dread over the entire space. 6 heads, each bearing a distorted and elongated jaw, protruded from the fleshly mass, swaying eerily as if guided by some unseen force. Their features were twisted and contorted, bearing a haunting resemblance to those of the missing individuals. Yet, there was a grotesque and otherworldly quality to their visages, a perversion of the faces they once belonged to. As the group gazed upon the horrifying entity before them, a sense of dread gripped their hearts, and they realized they were facing an abomination, a nightmarish creature whose very presence warped reality and erased the memories of its victims.
A Bedrochvogeth? I thought these were myths,
said Ager.
These are not supposed to exist.
Sure, let's put that on the same shelf as common sense and world peace.
responded Rigard.
I've danced with the surreal enough today. Time to sit this one out.
Ager responded.
You might have better luck convincing a dragon to give up its hoard than getting out of this quest, my friend.
Responded Tristan.
Seems this creature missed out on the bard's class on wit and charm.
Putin laughed. Rigard and Putin surged forward, their weapons raised, ready to face the monstrous foe. Meanwhile, Ager and Tristan held their ground, wary of the creature's next move. Suddenly, a writhing tentacle lashed out from the mass of flesh, hurtling towards Ager with alarming speed. Ager reacted swiftly, conjuring a protective shield just in time. The tentacle crashed against the barrier with tremendous force, leaving behind a deep crack as evidence of the shield's resilience. Rigard's sword cleaved through the air with expert precision, striking the beast repeatedly and leaving deep gashes in its flesh. Meanwhile, Putin's powerful blows landed squarely on the mound of flesh, carving through its surface with ruthless efficiency. Each strike brought the creature closer to defeat, but it continued to thrash and writhe in response to the onslaught. As another tentacle lashed out towards Tristan, it missed its mark by a wide margin, flopping clumsily to the ground at his feet. Seizing the opportunity, Tristan summoned his magical prowess, casting a deadly spell that struck the beast squarely in its vulnerable spot. The creature convulsed in agony, its monstrous form writhing as the magic coursed through its being. Ager recast his shield.
I am not supposed to be here.
He thought as one of the heads of the Bedrag Vajith descended upon Putin, its gaping jaws opened wide with an eerie hiss, aiming directly for his midsection. With lightning speed, the massive jaws clamped shut, sinking into Putin's flesh, and wrapping around his waist with a vice-like grip. Putin's muscles tensed as he felt the searing pain of the creature's bite, his breath catching in his throat as he struggled against the overwhelming force of the attack. The creature's teeth dug deep into his armor, threatening to crush bone beneath the relentless pressure. As the second head of the Bedrag Vajith lunged towards Rigard, its razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light of the cavern, Rigard's instincts kicked in with lightning speed. With a graceful sidestep, he narrowly avoided the creature's snapping jaws, his movements fluid and precise as he danced out of harm's way. Meanwhile, Tristan's aim remained true as he unleashed another deathly spell upon the beast, his magic crackling through the air with lethal intent. The energy surged forth, striking the Bedrag Vajith with a blast of dark energy that reverberated through its monstrous form, eliciting a deafening roar of pain and fury. Seizing the opportunity, Rigard struck with decisive precision, his sword slicing through the air with a swift and powerful arc. With a resounding thud, the blade cleaved through the neck of the Bedrag Vajith's second head, sending it tumbling to the ground in a gory display of severed flesh and writhing tentacles. Meanwhile, Putin wasted no time in regaining his footing, his muscles burning with determination as he launched himself back into the fray. With a mighty swing of his sword, he delivered another heavy blow to the creature's twisted form, his weapon biting deep into its flesh with a satisfying crunch. As the severed head of the Bedrag Vajith lay twitching on the ground, a grotesque sight unfolded before Putin's eyes. From the writhing mass of flesh that constituted the creature's body, a new head appeared, its eyes fixed hungrily upon him. With lightning speed, it lunged forward, its maw gaping wide as it seized Putin once more in its powerful jaws. Ager readied and threw a ball of fire at the creature, hitting it with great accuracy. As the three tentacles lashed out towards Rigard with lightning speed, he reacted with practiced agility, sidestepping their deadly trajectory with a grace born of battle-hardened skill. With deft footwork and swift movements, he danced away from the snapping jaws of the Bedrag Vajith's appendages, narrowly avoiding their deadly grasp. Sensing an opportunity, Rigard countered with a series of swift strikes, his sword flashing in the dim light as he looked to sever the tentacles from the creature's writhing mass. With each precise blow, he aimed for vulnerable spots, observing to cripple his adversary and turn the tide of battle in their favor. As Putin found himself ensnared within the vice-like grip of the Bedrag Vajith's head, he refused to yield to despair. Drawing upon his reserves of strength and determination, he seized hold of the creature's jaws with a tenacity born of desperation, his muscles straining against the creature's formidable might. With a primal roar of effort, Putin exerted all his strength, pulling with a ferocity that belied his mortal frame. The jaws of the Bedrag Vajith groaned and creaked under the tremendous pressure, the sinewy muscles of the beast's neck bulging as it struggled against the relentless force of Putin's grip. And then, with a sickening tear, the creature's head split apart, torn asunder by Putin's sheer determination. The top half of the head hung limply by a thread of sinew, to free himself from its grasp. The Bedrag Vajith lashed out with a colossal tentacle, its sinewy appendage hurtling through the air with deadly precision. Despite Ager's valiant attempt to shield himself, the tentacle tore through his defenses with a ferocity that left him reeling. With a sickening impact, the tentacle struck Ager squarely in the chest, its force throwing him backward with a bone-jarring thud. He collided with the unforgiving stone wall, the sheer force of the blow driving the air from his lungs in a sharp gasp of pain. For a fleeting moment, Ager's world spun in a haze of agony and disorientation. Stars danced before his eyes as he struggled to regain his bearings, his limbs heavy and unresponsive beneath the weight of the creature's attack. His body went limp. The Bedrag Vajith shoots two tentacles towards Tristan, both glancing off his chainmail armor. A second two tentacles hit towards Putin, hitting him directly in the chest, pushing him back about a foot with no real damage. Rigurd and Putin swing their swords into the Bedrag Vajith over and over, their cuts getting deeper and deeper into the large mound of flesh. Tristan repeated through death touch, hitting the Bedrag Vajith with all he had. The Bedrag Vajith lands a couple hits with its tentacles on Tristan's chest, almost knocking him off his feet, causing one of his death touches to fly wildly past Rigurd and landing on the ceiling of the cave. Rigurd and Putin hit the beast with deep cuts, and Tristan throws a final death touch as the beast's heads fall limp to the side of its body.
Is it dead?
Asked Rigurd.
It moved. It moved.
Putin began hacking deep into the flesh. The flesh of the beast ripped wide open, putting a gaping hole deep into the Bedrag Vajith's body.
It's dead, you can stop cutting it.
Yelled Tristan.
It's dead, you can stop cutting it.
Tristan shouted, trying to calm Putin down. Putin paused, his chest heaving from the effort. He glanced at Tristan, then back at the cavernous hole he had carved into the creature. As he peered into the depths, something caught his eye, an arm and the face of the old deaf man who had warned him about things not being as they seemed.
He's alive.
Putin exclaimed, pulling the old man's body from the maw of the beast. The old man's chest rose and fell faintly, showing he was still breathing. Putin's gaze shifted back to the wound, and he saw another figure, a child he recognized from the woman who had been searching desperately for her husband.
There's a child in here too.
Putin called out, his voice urgent. He reached into the Bedrag Vajith and gently pulled the child out, cradling the small, frail body in his arms. The child was unconscious but alive, and Putin's relief was palpable. Rigurd and Tristan rushed over, their faces a mix of horror and relief as they took in the scene. The nightmare of the Bedrag Vajith was over, but the aftermath revealed the true extent of the creature's horror, trapped victims, now freed from its monstrous grip. Rigurd looked towards his brother and saw him unconscious against the cave wall and ran to him to see if he was all right. He checked and Ager still was breathing and had a pulse, but barely. Soon he began to wake back up.
Welcome to the living, brother. You missed out on all the fun,
said Rigurd.
Why the hell did I follow you down here? I am not a fighter. I am a scholar,
complained Ager as he concentrated and tried to cast a healing spell on himself.
Brother, no offense, but get the hell away from me. You seem like bad luck.
Rigurd laughed and got out of the range of his brother, who began to cast healing spells on himself, Tristan, and Putin.
Must be nice to be able to sleep through a battle,
mocked Tristan to Ager.
As I said, I am a scholar, not a fighter,
said Ager in an annoyed voice.
Then why do you have combat spells if you are not a fighter?
Asked Tristan.
Because when you go to school in Eodior, you learn all kinds of spells, which is why it is called a magic school. We are not taught to be fighters, we are taught to be people who use magic. I know lots of spelling, I know how magic works. Unlike you who just fell into your magic ability and need to ask people like me to teach you how to cast specific spells.
Ager asserted he was healing everyone and trying to clean himself off.
We probably shouldn't leave this like this,
state Rigurd.
When in doubt, burn it with fire, I say.
Responded Ager. Everyone quickly agrees. Ager and Tristan began to start casting fire spells at the large hunk of flesh. The smell was horrid as the flesh burned, but after a while the only thing that was left was a charred mound of flesh.
I don't think we can go back the way we came since it might be difficult to climb back up. Looks like there is a cave exit if we keep heading in this direction.
Brigard said as he pointed down a cavern tunnel. The group began to walk towards the exit, keeping the old man and the child next to them. After a couple minutes of walking, they came to the opening of the cave exit, covered in a heavy vegetation hiding it from the outside. Appearing from the depths of the cave, the group found themselves greeted by the warm embrace of sunlight filtering through the thick canopy of vegetation that shrouded the cave exit. With the old man and child close by their side, they began the journey back towards the city of Hoffen, the weight of their recent encounter still heavy on their minds. As they made their way through the dense foliage, the sounds of the forest enveloped them, filling the air with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant calls of wildlife. Despite the tranquility of their surroundings, a sense of unease lingered within the group, a reminder of the harrowing ordeal they had faced deep within the bowels of the earth. Step by step, they ventured forth, their path illuminated by shafts of sunlight that pierced through the dense canopy above. Each footfall echoed in the silence of the forest, a solemn cadence that marked their passage through the wilderness. The group walked through the vegetation and started to head back towards the city of Hoffen.